Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Erik, a teacher and tutor with LSAT Demon. Joining me is Nathan Fox, co-founder of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We have an email from Grace.
Grace says, I really need to buff up my vocabulary. I enjoy reading and have been keeping up with my leisure books as I study, but it seems as though this practice is just not enough. My first diagnostic was a 143 this February, and now I'm scoring in the low 160s. I'm registered for the June test, as games is my best section, perfect score, but I'm about 5 points behind my goal. It seems to me that I'm losing a couple of points I need because I simply am not understanding some of the sentences. My vocabulary has always been lacking, but I have been able to get back. I did very well in college and graduated with a 3.97 GPA. This will be my first official test, so I do have some time to get my score up before I start applying to schools, but I'd love to score as high as possible this June. Any advice on how to actually attain the knowledge and acquire new vocabulary while reading and drilling would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for all you do, Grace. Grace, I've never told anybody to drill vocabulary, to study vocabulary. We don't have vocabulary words. We don't have flashcards. We don't study vocabulary because you think it's going to increase your LSAT score. I think by reading, you're doing everything that you can be doing. I think you should look up words as you read. You didn't mention that, but yeah, like reading's great, but getting words from context, it's nice. Like the more you read, the more words you are going to just absorb from context. But in Kindle, especially, you can just right click on the word or click and hold on the word and just immediately get that instant definition. And I think that would be a fantastic way to increase your vocabulary as you study.
And you have to be mindful as you read. I catch myself sometimes glossing over a word that I don't know. And I think it takes some intentionality to actually stop yourself, because most of the time you don't really need to understand a single word to understand what a sentence says. So there's a lot of the reading that we do day to day where I think we're probably just skimming over words we don't know. So It takes some mindfulness when you're reading to actually say, oh, you know what? That word, I don't actually know it, or I think I know it, but I'm not really sure. Get in the habit of stopping and, like Nate says, look up the word.
It's a habit, yeah. And I do it on my Kindle all the time. You can do it while you're working on LSAT questions, actually, while you're drilling in the Demon. It might be shut off while you're doing drills. I'm not sure, but the browser function of just right click, define, and you can get the words you can get the definitions of the words in our explanations, and you should be able to get the definitions of the words in the questions themselves with just a right click. Give that a shot when you're reviewing your LSAT, especially your mistakes, right? When you missed a question, okay, did you understand all the words? You sure? Give it a right click, read about the word a little bit. It might give you the insight as to why you missed the question.
I'm going to add something to the number one piece of advice, which is just to read. I think you should also look for reasons to write. And in the writing that you do, for instance, just emails, make it your goal to write as clearly and precisely as possible. Put some more, we're all going to have texts that we just spit off and as in a casual way, but start practicing being really careful and intentional with the way that you write. And I have found that doing that, which I don't do all the time, obviously, but the practice of trying to be a really clear writer naturally leads you to examine the words that you use and look for other words that might be better for your purposes. And, maybe have a short daily journal, or even if it's just the emails and the text that you send, just look for opportunities to be a little more careful in what you write. I
Mm-hmm.
think, and also like every once in a while I'll get into a kick of watching YouTube videos on writing style or reading a book on writing tips and writing style. I think that can be very helpful in leading you towards broadening your vocabulary.
Sorry that we don't have the magical tips, Grace, between now and June. You know, and anyway, vocabulary is not the difference between you and the LSAT score that you want. It might be a contributing factor, but there's no way that it's the one thing that's holding you back. Keep practicing. You've made great progress so far. Looks like you've picked up 20 points already, and there's no reason why you can't pick up another 10 or 15 points on top of that and get yourself into the 170s. So just keep going. And as you're reading and as you're writing, always look up words that are unfamiliar. If you're thinking about using a word in a sentence, but you're not sure, yeah, well, maybe look up the word and see if that helps you decide whether to use it or not. Cool. Thanks, Grace. Really appreciate your question. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.